Okay, good morning and welcome to the Welsh Athletics Coaching Insights, where we look into unsung heroes of coaches within the community in Wales and really get to know them a little bit more. Today we're speaking to Alyson Hourihan, a long-standing coach and athlete from Cardiff AAC. Alyson, how are you, and would you like to just introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Alyson Hourihan. I'm a coach at Cardiff Athletics Club and athlete up until 2014.
Okay, great, thank you. So, like I alluded, I think in your notes that you started athletics in Caerphilly County Schools in 1970 and went on to join Cardiff Athletics Club in 1971. I'm assuming that was at Maindy Stadium then, was it?
Yeah, that was at Maindy.
Okay, so for the people that don't know Maindy Stadium, that's near Canton, just where the Maindy Leisure Centre is at the moment. How have you seen the changes over the years from obviously being involved with Cardiff Athletics Club from 1971 to today being 2020?
Well, Maindy was a really lovely place. It had a cinder track. The stand was wooden. It had the clubhouse where Dr. Evans and Mrs. Evans used to serve the titbits, little sweets to the kids. The changing rooms are the most horrendous places you could ever be. Freezing cold, stone, tile, no heating, very cold in winter. The track, as you ran round it, because it had the cycle track around the outside, you'd go up the hill, up on the cinders, down the hill, the back straight would be a bit wonky. As you enter the home straight, the water would run off the cycle track across the start line. But it was such a lovely, friendly, warm place. Yeah. And the cyclists and the athletes got on well because they were around the outside on the cycle track and we were on the field.
Yeah, definitely. Some athletes don't realise how good they've got it really with the brand new track at Leckwith currently. And then you move to, from Maindy being that cinder track to the old Leckwith where obviously Cardiff City Football Stadium is now. Was there a big jump in difference between going from obviously that cinder track to a more...
Huge difference. At Maindy, when you start a race, let's say the 100 metres, you'd actually dig a hole in the cinder to make your starting blocks. Eventually, we went on a bit later and had starting blocks down there. Then you went to a tartan track. You bounced along. Cwmbran was the first one opened. And when I went there from running on cinders to there, I knocked half a second off my 100 time and 1.5 seconds off my 200 time. That was the difference from going from cinders to tartan. And of course, some of the events in the 70s, we were still running on grass as well.
Yeah.
But, at the new track down in Leckwith, we did have an outside throw area. So we were starting to have a little bit more for the throwers. We had a little shelter was built out there. I think it was Adrian did the concrete path between the discus and the shot circle. It was a really nice area.
Yeah.
And safer.
Yeah, definitely. I do remember the outside track at the old Leckwith, as we will call it now. So in these unprecedented times in terms of lockdown, how are you coping? How are you finding it, whilst in lockdown?
Well, I'm lucky. I have a dog, so I'm able to go and walk the dog once a day. So we tend to walk up the Wenalt through the woods or around Caidelin Park. So able to get out and about, which is the important thing, and do jobs around the house.
Yeah, so the dog is happy then?
The dog's very happy. Yeah. If it doesn't, it just won't do anything.
So moving on from there, as an athlete, your first taste of athletics was within the school system. The school system is still going strong now with obviously your St Martin's Comprehensive in Caerphilly.
Well, it was the junior school was this first invitation into athletics. Then St Martin's Comprehensive School with Midland Schools then.
Yeah. So you did everything from 100 to 800 to cross country to all the throws, but obviously your favourite was the javelin. Is that right in saying?
It was. I had an injury hurdling, and the muscle disappeared on the top above my one knee. So I landed out doing more throwing events. So I landed out doing more javelin, discus and shot rather than running.
Okay. And also you captained that Mid Glamorgan Schools team and represented Wales at at all levels from the age of 15. Do you see a major difference between obviously the school system that went through then in terms of the buy-in, the teachers, the schools, the athletes to now? Obviously there's been some changes with the academic program kind of taking over, but do you see many differences?
A lot of the schools were, there was an investment by the teachers into the pupils, and the teachers did spend a lot of time. In the Midland schools, we also used to have a week's course down in Ogmore.
Yeah.
So all the athletes would get together, learn, and the teachers were sort of very, very important part in those days, encouraging people to be doing sport and activities.
Yeah. I suppose it's times have changed and they still do a lot, but it has moved on. So just the next, also you went to Bangor University and the Welsh University Champs, coached by our very own Paul Jensen. Was your athletics career able to carry on? Also, you did your physical education degree back here in Cardiff, and then you joined the police. Was this something you carried on through those times, or?
I was continually doing my athletics, but it did take a back burner in that education is very, very important. It's what your future is. With sport, you can get injured, and if you haven't got an education or something to go back to, then you could be stuck. So I was still continuing my sporting career, probably not as involved as I could have been, but it was keeping the balance between work, rest and play. So sport, school and other activities, because I did do other things.
So going on from there, and this is also around the coaching, is how did you get into coaching from that stage? Obviously you mentioned here that you developed early stage in late 90s with Dave Williams, Gary Smith, Roger Brindle and John Walters, the Cardiff youth throwers, is that correct?
Yeah, we did that, but my coaching started before then. When I was in university, part of the system up there was encouraging you to get involved in other sports and coaching. So I was coaching gymnastics and athletics to pupils and people around in the North Wales area at that time, around Bangor. And then that continued because there's very, very few throwing coaches, as you know. It was hard to find people to be coaching, to coach you. So I then started coaching other people as I was going along, and then just gradually building and being a felicitator to enable. In the late 70s, Gary Smith came up with the idea of getting a number of field coaches together. So we were covering for Bridgend, up the valleys, Cardiff and Newport, and inviting athletes to come. And we all had a little bit to do. We were doing the conditioning all together, and then we went and specialised in the different events. So the athletes that attended did have a little bit of everything, and were coming into a centre where they could learn. And we were doing that once, twice a week, on Tuesday and on a Sunday.
Oh, great! That sounds excellent. So, obviously, coaching across that time period, is there any main difference that you see? Obviously talked about within the schools with the athletes that come to the clubs in terms of now to then?
A lot of the athletes come because they're pursuing their physical education certificate.
Yeah.
And some actually want to do it, and that's the difference. I think in the 70s and 80s, people actually were going to athletics meetings or clubs because they wanted to be there. Now sometimes they don't want to be there as much, but they want to enjoy what they're doing. So I think it's important that you allow or felicitate what they can do so they can achieve what they expect, and they're aware of their expectations and how promising they can be, because a lot of children don't realise how good they could be, and they're always comparing themselves with other people, and they shouldn't. The centre of whatever they're doing is the child and them, and they should always be the first person to compete against is themselves. Other people, if they beat them, bonus. If they break records, bonus. But they've got to start on that little step first and believing in themselves and achieving what they want for themselves, and which is what I hope I can allow them to do.
That's great. And it's that old adage, isn't it? You need to go against yourself first before you can go against everyone else, I suppose. So
many children and people are fixated on records and doing things. Children develop at different rates. Yeah. Some are very good when they're young. Some are very good when they're older. And, you know, people, you probably know the saying that when you were starting the event, the people that were there then disappeared when you're older and new ones came along. So you can't, just because you're good at one age doesn't mean it's keeping that stability and that steady progress forward to allow you to see what you can do. You know, you can't be the best all the time. You need to know how to lose, to know how to win as well. Yeah, and I think that's the hard thing with athletics, is because it's obviously that very distance oriented with the throws, and throws being a late maturation sport, and somebody that's the same age, that their bodies, like you said, change in very difficult ways. And I think people need to understand that throws especially is a long-term process. Like for me myself, when I was younger, I was never the best when I was a junior, but I just carried on, and other people that grew quicker than me and kind of changed and dropped off. So just leading on to the next question, you've obviously seen some talented athletes come through Cardiff AC over the years. You know what I mean? Your Adrians, your Jacks, your Brett Morses, your Jay Morses, and various other throwers. In terms of your coaching, what is the one thing that you kind of look for within an athlete? Obviously, it's not easy to define that, but is it something within themselves, physical? What is it? It's listening. Is their ability to listen to what's being said, and not in their own minds think, I know what I'm doing, because people have their own idea of their positioning, and with throwing, it's all about getting into the right position. Yeah. And sometimes the athlete has that idea, and it's trying to explain to them that even though something might feel right to them, it's wrong, and vice versa. And it's just getting to know. So it's listening and having the ability to trust what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. And that it is definitely a two-way process in coaching, especially coaching throws, because it's such a large interaction of that one-to-one space. And it's nice if they ask questions. Yeah, it is good if you get some feedback and some talking, especially when it's raining and cold in the middle of December at Leckwith, I assume. In terms of your coaching, whilst adapting your coaching from being an athlete to a coach, obviously you discussed what you did with Cardiff youth throwers. Is there any coaches that you kind of look towards or gained information from that you would go back to now? Well, there's Paul Jensen. A lot of them people wouldn't really know because sadly they're not with us any longer. Yeah, but I think the basics of most of throws hasn't actually changed. Yeah. It's just a slight technique. So as I say, Paul's a big influence on how I sort of developed over the years. Okay, great. And then so that leads on to the next question, in terms of if you were speaking to younger coaches, which we are now, what advice would you want to give them in terms of their own personal development? Younger coaches, if they are not, because you're getting some now that are not actually throwers that are coaching, is actually try and have a go and again feel what it's like to do something wrong, to know how to do it right. Yeah, definitely, and I think that helps because obviously everyone has their own movement patterns. So doing it yourself really gets to understand that you can still hit those positions even if they look slightly different. Because when the coach says, "Oh, I know what it's like," or "I know what if they haven't actually done the event, they sometimes don't realize that if your weight's in the wrong place, it makes it more difficult. If it's in the right place, it's easier to go through. Definitely, and that is a great story that you have there, Alyson, from being involved with Cardiff Athletics Club to
from that long age to now being 2020 and your new club, the nice clubhouse, the nice new track, the outside throws area. And I just want to say, from me, and I'm sure other athletes have gone through your coaching for the years, just thank you for your time and effort that you put in. And I'd just like to finish off this little brief chat with just some quick fire fun questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So they are a little bit of fun. So giving presents or getting presents?
Giving.
Okay. Do you have a middle name?
Yes.
Okay. And then person you admire the most. Doesn't have to be a sporting context.
Person I admire the most. Ooh. That's a hard one. Because I think lots of people have different things they can offer you. So,
okay. So just that one person, and say from like a non-sporting context, when in the police or so forth, anyone.
Well, Willie John McBride.
Okay.
That might sound strange, but I was at an athletics meeting in Northern Ireland, and it was strange because it was when they had the lockdown. So you had police officers with guns walking around, and he was on the side, and he called me over, and his hands are like shovels. I just couldn't believe, but he made a big impression with me. I was talking to him for a while, but which is totally off this normal sort of persons, but he had lots of stories to tell.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Alyson. I really enjoyed this catch up, and the viewers can look at our coaching insights into the community in Wales and unsung heroes. And I just want to say thank you again for your time.
Okay, and you stay safe and well.
You too, Alyson.